Welcome everyone to Melfuzz TV. I am Peter and today I'm going to be talking about the Twilight Zone Season 5 Episode 25. It's called The Masks. So spoilers for the episode. This one's about a dying man who has invited his family, namely his son, daughter-in-law and two grandkids, to his mansion, because he's rich, he's filthy rich, and has a plan to teach them a lesson, we'll say. Hard to sum up in a single sentence, but we're about to dive into it. So let's do it. So this old man is pretty. He's very much a cynical old guy. The opening scene, which introduces him along with his doctor, who's checking him out and is informing him that he's only got days, maybe only hours to live. Right, he's right on the tip of death. That said, he's very aware and copacetic for someone who's on the verge of death. But he's old, he's dying, and he's invited his family, who, once they arrive, the doctor runs into them. But the opening scene with the doctor kind of sets up, one, the old man's attitude, but also the idea that he's very much a straight shooter. And he criticizes the doctor for having bad bedside manner, but then the doctor points out that the first time he ever gave him a checkup, like 25 years ago, the old man threw something at him for trying to be sympathetic towards him. So he's been very much plain, straight to the point, just giving him the facts, no sugarcoating anything. And he appreciates that. He doesn't like falsehoods, which is kind of what this episode ultimately becomes about, is that his family are a bunch of unlikable characters, shall we say. The son, well, I'm not going to say son, I'm going to say the father, just because there's like four like family members other than the old man, and it's a mum, dad, a son, and a daughter. So I'm going to say father for him. He is like a money grabber, shrewd businessman. He only cares about the value of things, but not the actual like like the monetary value, but none of the other value, none of the artistic value of something. Say, like one point he's described as pricing paintings and admiring how much he spent on a painting, but not actually looking at the art, kind of thing. The wife is very much a kind of whining, nagging. Everyone's a problem to her. Maybe hypochondriac, that kind of thing. Very kind of vapid. The daughter is very vapid as well, but in a much more sort of cosmetic way. She's always looking at her reflection. She's always worried about her makeup. All she wants to do is go and see boys. And then the son might be a total sociopath. It's implied that he tortures small animals for fun. But these are the characters that are kind of introduced, and very much they don't seem like they're very happy to be here. And it's very apparent that they're only here because, well, once the old man dies, they're going to inherit everything. And as soon as they go up to see the old man, they're trying to be nice, particularly the two adults of the quadruple, the family. I don't know why I'm trying to sound fancy. Particularly the parents. The wife's been very nice to her father-in-law and saying, "Oh, it's nice to see you, father." And this scene, which is the bulk of the first half of the episode before the ad break, is very much the old man just straight up calling out what he thinks of each of them, and the cynicism of like when they're nice to him is like, oh, for example, the daughter character, when she's told by her parents to say, tell your grandfather it's nice to see him, she says that almost verbatim, it's nice to see you, grandfather, and he's like, well, that's nice to say, but you've not actually even seen me yet. All you've done is spend time looking at the mirror, your own reflection. And like this scene's full of little snipes like that, where he'll mention the cruelty of the son or the greed of the dad or whatever. Like he keeps firing them in, and he's like, "Hey, I need to make it to tomorrow, but I've planned a special dinner tonight, and we're all going to have a good time. So go down and get ready for dinner. I'll see you all then." And asks his butler to get the masks ready. And the butler opens a trunk and we see the masks, and that's the tease for the ad break. So we've got a little cliffhanger. And it's a decent little cliffhanger. I think this is a solid one because it's like the main visual gimmick, the main thing that the plot's going to revolve around. We've spent the first half getting to know the characters, how they talk to each other, or specifically how the old man sees them. I think the family themselves are arguably a little bit two-dimensional, but I think that's probably right for doing this story in 25 minutes. I don't think you can go much deeper with them, because there's 4 of them. If you only had one character that he was like inviting over to like have this kind of not revenge, but like this comeuppance kind of thing with, then you could probably devote more time to really layering the character out and getting to know them on a much more deep level. Here, they have to be quite simplistic because there's 4 of them, and we have to get through all 4 of them so that we understand why they all deserve this. But when we come back after the ad break, pretty much the rest of the episode is one big scene, barring a little bit at the end, and it's just like when he comes in after they've had dinner and says, okay, I've got your masks, here do it. And they all don't want to wear the mask. They all feel like it's a stupid idea. But he makes it very clear that they're going to inherit everything he has, and they will as soon as he's dead. However, there's a caveat. They have to wear the mask that he's given them until midnight, and if they don't, they forfeit anything they were going to get. So they're all reluctant, and one of the fun things here is that he kind of like goads them into it by saying, oh, I've got everyone masks that are the opposite of what they are. But really, you can tell that he means that this is exactly what he thinks of them. Like, you know, given the sociopath's son, like this, like here's someone who's violent and whatever because you're a gentle giant, but that's not true. He's giving him literally the mask of what he thinks he is, and so on. Now, admittedly, I mean, these masks all look kind of similar to me, and it didn't really feel like I could see how each one represented anything specific. Maybe that's just my lack of knowledge about this Mardi Gras culture, because I've not mentioned that, but it's set in New Orleans, and there's parties and parades going on outside in the street, and this is like all part of Mardi Gras, and it's kind of, I think Rod at the start when he's doing his intro even kind of implies that like these masks are part of like a Mardi Gras kind of like not folklore, but like spell or something. I don't know. Like he says something to that effect near the start. But I mean, all this really builds up to is the idea, and this is the meat of the episode, is that these characters don't want to wear these masks. They think it's dumb, but ultimately do it because they want the money. And once they're in the masks, we cut ahead a little bit in time. They are really uncomfortable. Like they say they're being suffocated, which is like, I get that masks aren't that comfortable and it gets kind of hot, but ultimately, like, if this is what all it's taken to get, thousands or millions of dollars, I feel like I wouldn't complain that much, because they know when they have to wear them till it's midnight. It's not like it's some undefined time. It's like, no, you just have to wear it till midnight. But they're really uncomfortable, and it's this idea that they're really uncomfortable with their true faces showing, right? That's the irony of the episode. That's kind of the point that the old man is getting at the entire time, is that they all think they're the opposite that they are. They don't think they're as shallow as they are, and they think that they are better people than that. The first mask he sort of explains is for the son, is for the dad of the family, and he's like, hey, one do you think you are? Like, which one do you think makes you think of yourself? And he doesn't really want to do it, but he ultimately, he keeps repeating like he's an affluent man. He's like, he keeps saying things like that. He keeps saying these positive ideas of what he is. But then they're all very uncomfortable in these masks, and the big sort of Twilight Zone ending to the episode is that when they take off the masks, after they straight up start celebrating, they're like, oh, finally, he's dead. Right? That's when they take the masks off, is after the old man dies. And the old man, as he's dying, even says, oh, you're finally about to get what you want. I'm finally going. And the old man's wearing a death mask, for the record. That's the one that made sense. He's wearing like a skull mask. And funnily enough, when he gets his mask taken off by the doctor in the final scene, he just looks himself because it represented death, and that's, what he was. He was dying. But the others, when they take their masks off, their faces have changed to match what the masks were, but now it's like makeup, of course, like in terms of like making the show. And I actually love this moment, like, because this episode is mostly the character drama, and it's all just kind of like almost the old man maybe even being a bit on the nose with like, hey, we're going to do this, and like, he's up to something. But this moment where they take the mask off is really well done. There's a music sting when you flick, because the wife takes the mask off first, and you don't see her. You see the back of her head and the reactions of the rest of the family, and they're all in shock. And she's like, "What is it?" And the shot where you get to see her face is like a sort of close-up zoom into her face from the front before she then runs off to the mirror to look properly. And the music sting that happens when this moment hits is, it reminded me of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre of all things. It was that kind of like rough, kind of like unpleasant note, and it really sold this idea of the horror of this, and like this be their true self coming out. And of course they all take their masks off, they all have like faces that have changed into what the masks were. And it's kind of like, okay, you can have the money, you're going to get everything, but you can't lie about who you are. And while this old man is arguably vicious in doing this to them, and he's definitely not that likable a guy because he's a bit of a dick to everyone, you can say that he's not like honest about who he is, right? That's his thing the whole time, is that he's very upfront, he's a bit of an asshole, but what you see is what you get. He's been very open about who he is, why he is the way he is, and doesn't hide how he feels about things. Whereas all of his descendants here are all behind a veil. They're all behind masks, funnily enough, right? So the masks of the episode are actually what they've got before they put the physical masks on, just to get a little fancy in my analysis. But that's what the episode is doing, and it's a pretty solid episode at that. It's yeah, I think I'd say it's really good. It's kind of an interesting one because it really holds back in what the Twilight Zone element is until the very end. Obviously, you see the mask and look kind of spooky, and like that's kind of part of it to keep you engaged. But it's all the character stuff. That's all it is until the last like 2 minutes. And then it kind of like it hits really hard though when it does hit, because like I say, that moment, the way it's directed with the music, I think is really strong, and the point that is ultimately made is quite entertaining. And while maybe the old man didn't have to do this, I think by the time you get to that point in the episode, you do feel like all four of these characters kind of deserve this, right? They deserve something at the very least. They do a good job of making them unlikable, without maybe making each one completely layered, because again, we've got four of them, we have to kind of, you know, get them all across, and the idea of who they all are across. I almost felt, if anything, the idea that the son character was torturing small animals and was like a bit of a sociopath was almost being undersold. Like, I felt like that was a bigger deal. Like, one day he might be a serial killer, but the type of talk that was going on about who he is, or what they were implying about who he is, I almost felt like they had to do a bigger reaction to that in some way. I mean, I don't know what you do there. Like, obviously, this predates all the references I can make, but the idea that he takes off the mask and there's just like a hockey mask because he's actually Jason Voorhees now, or something, I don't know. But, you know, I think I had a good time with this. Particularly the performance from the main guy, the old man, is really solid. And the direction and the music's really what got me more than anything else, I think. But fun premise about vanity and being true to yourself and all that. So good stuff. The next episode, I didn't really catch too much of what Rod said at the end, but he did say that it was about hatred. But yes, this is the episode next is called I Am the Night, Color Me Black. That's weird. I don't remember many double-barreled names in past episodes. There's a dash in the middle of this. But here's a description on IMDb. The sun doesn't rise on a small town where an execution is scheduled to take place. Actually, that sounds quite good. That sounds quite interesting from, like, how do they all react to this and why do they think it's happening? I'm intrigued by that premise, actually. So, all right, okay. So yeah, this week was Manor, pretty much. A very different type of episode as well from a lot of the other good episodes, which is cool. And next one sounds intriguing, so let me know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Helps out a bunch if you do. And of course, you can get bonus stuff and support all the content over at patreon.com twitch.tv/MailFuzzTV. But that is me, so thank you very much once again for watching or listening. I always appreciate it. Keep watching TV in the Twilight Zone.